the truck and gonna stand up. Rep the Midwest, get it hype. This the ramp up. Hey, the ramp up, ramp up. Never hit the brakes. Break it down day to day. Show the people what it takes. The ramp up, ramp up, the ramp up.
Welcome to the Ramp Up. This is episode 2 presented by Hoplite Logistics, and we have some very fun partners of ours on this today. We're very gracious you guys can make time for us, but our friends at Greenscreens are here, and maybe you guys just want to introduce yourselves, but again, thank you for jumping on with us.
Yeah, for sure. Celine, you want to go first?
Absolutely. I'd love to. Yeah. Thanks for having us. We're excited to be here on a Friday when we're recording this. Celine Clayton, the Vice President of Marketing at Greenscreens. I've been with the organization for a little over 2 years now. So I've really been a part of, bringing the brand to where it is today, which I know is the topic of today's conversation. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yep. And my name is Rachel Backfisch. I head up the customer success team at Greenscreens. Celine and I actually worked together at our last organization, a final mile delivery software program, and we both saw what awesome people and product Greenscreens had and jumped over here. But I was actually in tobacco for 15 years. Decided to leave the corporate world and had no idea what I was going to do next. Landed headfirst in logistics, and I love it. There's actually a lot of similarities between the industries. But yeah, I have 4 customer success managers and 4 business analysts on my team. They're amazing, and they're a big part of the brand that we're building at Greenscreens as well. So happy to be here.
Do you remember the moment that we all met?
I mean, I know it was at Manifest. I'm trying to remember the exact moment. You're gonna have to help me.
I think we just came up to your booth and so I think someone introduced us. I can't remember exactly who, but you guys were just like, the energy was great. And I was like, oh, these are pretty cool people right here. Like, I think we're gonna hang out with you guys a lot. I think we ended up being
We did
20% of the time at the conference.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that today. We met at Manifest. I was also thinking about, we had like one of the smallest booths there. We had good placement, but like we didn't spend nearly as much money as other companies did, right? With the huge displays and trucks and all of that. But I do think we were kind of drawing people in, and it wasn't because of the size of our booth or the fancy stuff we had at our booth. It was just the energy, like you said, the people, and that was a big eye opener for me when I first went to Manifest and saw that with the Greenscreens team.
Absolutely. Like, that's part of the reason we wanted. I mean, you're our first interview on podcast, and we thought we couldn't think of a better team to talk to, especially with regard to marketing, because I mean, in our first episode, we talked about our favorite brands in logistics right now. We both kind of ranked them, and you guys are at the top for us. How do you approach marketing that way? But your team definitely is like very fun. Like it disarms people. When we were there, we felt like, let's go see what Greenscreens is up to. Like, we'd already been to your booth like 4 times, and obviously we're a partner of yours too. But you just have a really good team. I think you guys are super well represented on a lot of different platforms and conferences, and maybe don't give away the secret sauce, but how do you guys approach that? Because it's obviously working.
Celine, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll take that. I would say, marketing, we get the credit a lot of the times, but it really comes down to the culture that we've built. And I feel like that has really, it's created the marketing and brand that we have today, really. A lot of the fun taglines you see, like no BS, just Shia, just right behind me here, and the shirt Rachel's wearing, like a lot of the things that we've done, really sometimes it's like a kind of a joke someone makes, and sometimes you turn that joke into an execution. Yeah. See that truck there, that was Sharm's doing. So, but yeah, I think our leadership team has created a tremendous team, and put the right people in the right seats, but they all have that same, I guess we can talk about this later because I know it's probably going to come up, but our core values. And I think it comes down to, that's how we've, built what we have so far.
Yeah. I think it starts with at the beginning, right, Dawn, and determining who she wanted to hire to build the company, right? I think, Kevin and Meryl were some of the first employees, but even from there, hiring customer success managers that understand the industry, have understand what our users are dealing with. But I think the key, one thing that we all have in common is we take what we do really seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. And we're all like willing to play the game when Celine says, "Hey, you're going to wear a Hawaiian shirt," and I get it, and it looks stupid on me, but by God, I'm going to wear it because it's my Greenscreens Hawaiian shirt. I think that the folks we've hired, and then to Celine's point, just the culture we've built along the way, has led to that energy, that's something that's noticeable when we're out and about.
So would you say that culture you create like kind of helps drive the marketing messaging? I mean, at some point you kind of have to talk to all your employees about how we're supposed to present ourselves, or is it more like you hire these people and they have these personalities, so that's just going to come naturally?
Natural. That's my answer. I don't know about you, Celine. I feel like, so January of 2022 is when I started, and it was right before Manifest. So, and there were like 4 of us that were brand new. And we showed up at Manifest and felt like we all agreed. It felt like we'd been working together for years. So I do think it's in the, you find the right folks that will fit in. And I'm not saying, the culture was established from day one and it hasn't changed, but like will fit into the personality of the organization and then continue to build upon it. And I think the important thing when you're at a startup is build in the right ways, right? We have fun, but that's not all we do. We have serious conversations about goal setting and making sure everyone's rowing in the same direction. Obviously, we're very serious in the work we do with our customers. But having everybody that approaches the business and the let's have some fun in the same way makes it a little easier. And it's like you wake up and I don't have the, what do you call it? Like the Sunday yuckies, like, oh, I got to go to work tomorrow. That's pretty awesome.
Our next episode is kind of on culture and hiring. And I mean, that kind of goes hand in hand then, because through the culture you created and the hiring, the people you're bringing in, the company kind of markets itself a little bit. You have a lot of charismatic people. And I mean, I did say when talking about you guys, I was like, they're the fun team that has like Hawaiian shirts on and they maybe have setting up a bar at their table, but the platform's great. And, you guys are super responsive. So, I mean, you've built a really good product and we love your team. So when it comes to social media, though, I wanted to chat on that a little bit because you guys have a nice, props to Celine. You guys have a great marketing strategy. You're all across all platforms, it seemed like I'm sure that's by design, but can you touch on that a little bit between social and in person and how you interact with your customers? I mean, just in general, how do you approach that?
Yeah, I think social media for sure is super important and key. And I think too, over the last few years, like Rachel said, we were kind of, in the last mile delivery space before this, but I think LinkedIn in specific has really evolved over the last few years. And I'd like to say we're kind of at the front of, changing the narrative on LinkedIn. Like before, people were very buttoned up and it was very, the same kind of process and approach. And I feel over the last few years, people have started to, push the limits on LinkedIn and try things new. And I think also to, short form content and videos, all of those different types of content are key, and you have to be able to switch it up. And again, across all platforms, certain content, performs better on others. But, before LinkedIn, it was so serious. It was, thought leadership. It was just, static imagery. And now you're seeing a lot of clips and more of that TikTok type of content. And while we haven't tapped into TikTok yet, that is one channel we are not on. I think it might be a great idea to try it and see what happens. But overall, I think pushing out different types of content to our customers is key. everyone learns differently. You know, some people want that long technical white paper. Some people want that short 3-minute clip that summarizes what they want to know on that specific question. So I think that's something we really try to do is switch it up. One thing we're kind of falling short on, but something we want to make a habit in the new year is to really go and see what content is engaging well and what should we continue to push out, what's not working, and really continue to adjust and optimize our strategy there.
Yeah. And one thing, I'll give Celine mad props. One thing that I am highly engaged with, and I think Celine and Emma have done really well, Emma's her counterpart, is organic. So like what you see from Greenscreens and other companies that engage me is the content organic, right? Celine posted a picture the other day of our CTO's watch face. And you know, had some message around the time change the other day. I just shared something from Halloween when we all got together and dressed up like idiots and just laughed for like 20 minutes. And then Celine and Emma took a picture, and it had more views than, you know, anything that I've posted in a while. So I think the content being organic and just real, right? Like not like we didn't just sit and contemplate for hours about the right words, but just put ourselves out there. I think that resonates. And then the only other thing I'll add is my favorite organic content is when it's from our customers and it's unsolicited. It's happened a handful of times, and that's when I'm the most proud, is when a customer just, because they're happy with Greenscreens, posts something and, you know, tags us. And to me, that's better than any expensive marketing campaign you can throw out there, for sure.
Because organic is genuine. And I think when people see something genuine, then they're more likely to be drawn towards that.
Yep.
And
That's right.
I feel like they know you, which is kind of one of our goals with creating this. I mean, we don't have any background in podcasting, but it's conversations with people we like, and that can be organic, and you can start to feel like, oh, I kind of get where they're coming from. Because when I listen to podcasts and find myself nodding along, I start to feel like I know that person even if we've never met. So I think it's a good way to draw in.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's cheaper.
Yeah.
Just be yourself, right? Like it doesn't cost as much money to do that. Yeah, and having like humility and just being yourself. That's key.
There were a couple of things you mentioned that made me think of something. And the first one was I read somewhere on some data from 2024 that said that 77% of consumers prefer to shop with brands that they follow on social media. Is LinkedIn like, is that our place in our industry? I just don't know if other platforms work or if you've seen it work. And that'll get me into questions about data, but I'm going to hold off on those for now.
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn for sure seems to be our biggest channel of success. We're also on Instagram too. So we do some sponsorships with Freight Caviar, and they have a really big following. So it makes sense for us to post on Instagram because, you know, we're getting tagged in their content. But I would say, yeah, that stat with the 77%, I think if you're a consumer or not a consumer, if you're selling something that for a consumer, right? Like you have to be on TikTok Shop now, you have to be on Instagram. They have some version of where you can buy like directly through Instagram, right? And I think for us though, I think LinkedIn for sure seems to be the biggest channel of success.
But yeah, I agree. And it's cool too, although you mentioned Freight Caviar, but all of the companies out there that share some of the same characteristics as us, right? You're authentic. You're just take what you do seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously. And everyone's supporting each other, right? Like we sponsor Freight Caviar, we sponsor Mike Lombardi, the driver, right? Who's running marathons and doing amazing things to try to educate other carriers. Those are just a couple examples of how I think companies that aren't even necessarily in the same space, but all in freight, trying to make it better and supporting one another, you get your brand out there that way as well. And I think that's awesome. It kind of makes LinkedIn more of a community than just a place you post stuff.
Well, I think you guys, I felt this way anyways, especially right after met with you with Manifest, but we view our partnerships like closely. Like if we're going to grow, we want to grow with companies together, and it's not always price driven, but it seems like you guys view those through the same lens because you partner with a lot of the same companies a lot. You're growing exponentially, but how does that partnership kind of work in the overall strategy too? Do you selective about who you share your brand image with?
Do you want to take that, Celine, in terms of like, you're talking about who we are partnering with on the sponsorship front?
Yeah.
Media, yeah. Yeah, I think we've definitely, like I said, we have the Freight Caviar sponsorship. We also sponsor the Freight coach, Chris Jolly. But yeah, really, like Rachel said, it's all about kind of creating that community. And when it comes to who we decide to work with, I think it's definitely a mutual decision, but we've established some of these sponsorships early on, which is really great. But it's because they believe in us as well, in our technology, especially since Chris Jolly actually is one of our customers, which has been really cool to see him not only as a podcaster, but also just seeing him use our technology, and it's all authentic. We're not paying him to say nice things about us. That is amazing. But really, it just comes down to them also believing in our mission. Same thing with Michael Lombard. We had the opportunity to sponsor him on his triathlon journey throughout the next year, and he has an incredible story. And so it's kind of like we're bought into him because we want to see him grow, and it's vice versa. And so I think, it really just comes down to that mutual respect and wanting to help each other grow and believing in each other's missions.
Yeah, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Celine, but initially it's we believe in what each other is doing. This is something we want to partner together on. But you're good at like tracking metrics and understanding where we're getting, leads from. You do a lot behind the scenes that nobody sees, and that helps us evaluate, the spend and how we might want to maybe shake up a partnership or look in another direction. I think that is important as well.
Can we dive into that a little bit? Because I'm curious on that front, and I don't really know that much about it. But obviously, analytics has become like huge, especially when you're tracking, your sales, your performance, your marketing, all of that. But there's definitely some intangible stuff with marketing that you probably can't really necessarily track. You don't know the value it's necessarily providing. But can you just dive into kind of what you are looking at in terms of data and kind of how you draw that in and use it?
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely, there's lots of tools out there, but they are more on the pricier side. So we don't use those internally today. But early on, when we started to establish these different partnerships, some little things that I did that I think will go a long way, especially if you get them, going before you, start the spend and the sponsorship. That way you can track, right from the beginning. So to create specific landing pages for those different partners, for those different campaigns. So you can really track, views, who's converting. Another thing we did that's really simple is, you have your request demo form and it says, how'd you hear about us? Now, of course, that's not 100%. I'm sure people just click a random field and then move on, but it gives us some insight into, because we like to think that at least, 75% of this is accurate and people are, being honest with it. But that, just little things like that are really easy to help to track success and conversions. Of course, too, you can use UTM tracking links, and we try to do that with every external campaign and links that we're pushing out through social so that we can track, where those original sources are coming from. And for our CRM, we use HubSpot. So HubSpot has an amazing tracking capabilities throughout email campaigns and being able to track if something's coming in through LinkedIn or whatever it may be. So we can really see a prospect, their life cycle from the second they were created to where they're hitting, if they're on their website, if they're on LinkedIn. So that's just little things like that we pay attention to. And of course, we have some reports that can show us the high level there.
Yeah. I don't do any of that. I can do data, but it's more like customer data. Celine is all over our marketing data.
That's awesome.
I mean, For anyone who might be listening who has a small business or is thinking about it, how would you prioritize which different mediums to go through first? Like, what channels do you think have the best bang for their buck for someone who maybe doesn't have a big marketing budget?
So I would say, and this is more, I guess, on the technology side, but it may still resonate, of course, if you have customers. So let's just kind of take it high level here. I would say if you can get a customer testimonial, film that, and it could be as simple as a Zoom recording here. From there, you take that's already video content that you can use, and then go and create a case study or something, a written form, a blog. And from there, you can leverage that throughout different social media posts. You could at least create 5 different clips out of that. And then you have, your blog. You can have even a downloadable resource too, if you're trying to track lead conversion that way. But that is essentially free. You just have to have a customer that is willing to come on and give 30 minutes of their time and to speak nicely about you. From there, of course, LinkedIn is great. I think Instagram is another awesome tool. I really do think there is a great opportunity for TikTok. Granted that it's not going to be banned, which I don't know what the latest and greatest is there. But I think, again, if you have a small budget, I think pushing some money beyond, boosting that post just to see what happens too. I think it's all about trial and error. And that's pretty much my whole life story in the last 2 years, is seeing what's working, what's not. And just, okay, we have this webinar. It's a week away. Let's just put a couple $100 behind it and see if we can boost it and what happens. So I would say, obviously, every dollar you spend, just try to analyze it and see what you get out of it. That's the biggest thing.
And LinkedIn they have ability to track kind of if you boost posts and you do run an ad campaign, you can track all that data, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they'll give you actual contact information, but you can track, the different views and who's clicking, or not who's clicking, but how many people have clicked. They'll show you the basic stuff like that, but of course they're not going to give you actual contact names.
Yeah, that was the double-edged sword I always wish they had, because you can see who looks at your personal page, but the company you don't know.
No.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Celine.
I was just going to say one other thing. On LinkedIn, you're not able to export your following. So like you can't see, there are ways around it, and I'm happy to walk you guys through how we do it. But like that would just be great if you could export your following, like who's following the page, and I could have a sheet of that. But of course you can't do that.
Of course. I was going to say one thing Celine's always done really well too is she makes it easy for like us to post things. So that's, I think, something that's free. If you have employees and they have a strong network, make it easy for them to either share or even post something on their own. They don't expect everybody's going to have this like confident marketing voice. Help them to share your message and your brand. And then that's a good way of getting some free reach.
Yeah. We've done a decent job, I feel like, with LinkedIn, but that's something we need to do a better job is involving our employees too. We try to, every time we do a quarterly magazine, we highlight one of them, but we haven't utilized LinkedIn as much as we should.
That's when we started Hoplite and we were launching in January, I think I spent every other night sitting on my laptop on the couch while my wife watched a show, just requesting people on LinkedIn. I was trying to build a bigger shipper network too, so I was requesting decision makers like all over the place. Any advice you have for sales reps like at a brokerage who want to post, they want to have this network, but sometimes like you get 2 likes and you don't really, there has to be they have to spend some time like trying to expand that network a little bit, right?
Yeah. Celine, you got any advice for that?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, the first thing that just popped into my head is tagging people in a post. I feel like we've tried this before, and maybe this is more so on the company page, but to try and get more engagement. So just some, and again, LinkedIn changes their algorithm all the time. So this may not be relevant in the current state, but some things we've learned along the way is like if we post on a company page, the reach is going to be much lower than if Rachel were to go and post that same exact post on her own personal page. So we've learned on our company page, if it's something, again, if it's like Rachel's voice to begin with, maybe it makes sense for her to share this story about a customer and then Greenscreens repost it that way, because that will get a ton more reach than just the company page posting something. Another thing we've learned is, if we have a big announcement, a new partner announcement, and we want the team to go and share it. If the team just goes and reshares it, like clicks reposts without a caption, it will actually hurt us in the algorithm. So some suggestions would be you can repost it, but make sure to add a caption so that it's your own personal post that's going on your LinkedIn page. But another thing we try to do, as Rachel said, like we'll give like 5 different sample captions and we'll say, hey, put your own spin on this, but here's 5 different ideas of how to message this new announcement. And we'll even include the graphics so they can go and make their own entire post. But we've seen that just skyrocket engagement more so than us just using the company page.
Do you know why it hurts your algorithm when you just repost? Because I've done that. Yeah.
So I haven't looked into it in a few months, but I know back in the summer, I think it was, LinkedIn their new algorithm was trying to focus more so on like true thought leadership. So, and from the actual subject matter experts. So their new algorithm would be like, so if Rachel really, really loves pickleball and she's, a thought leader in pickleball, her post about pickleball will be boosted in the algorithm versus, I guess, the opposite. Like their algorithm now is looking for people, like boosting posts that are relevant and more so. So that means the company posts that you're trying to promote something about yourself, like a company page, it won't be boosted in the algorithm, or it's being tiered down, especially if they can detect that 20 people from that same company just reshared the same post at the same time.
It's like they're prioritizing when they know you have something to say versus you're just clicking the share button. Okay.
By the way, I could see you as a pickleballer.
Oh, totes. Yeah. I've never played pickleball in my life. I would. If someone wants to invite me.
We'll play. We'll see at Manifest. I'll reserve a court.
Yes.
And we'll play.
That's
awesome.
The Manifest pickleball court sponsored by Greenscreens.
True. I love that.
Tournament.
I love that. Can't hear you, Celine.
Oh, I just said we can make that happen.
There you go.
I do want to talk about branding for a few minutes and like the importance of that. We talked about that our first episode. And I don't know if we've really heard like the branding story behind Greenscreens, like the decision with the logo and the colors and all that. Like if that's something that you have, that you understand, real well, I'd love to just hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, I can share kind of the origin story, and then Celine has done way more than I have in the last couple of years. But so originally, Greenscreens, the name Greenscreens was kind of a satirical nod to the AS400, like green screens, right? Program, the old school programs that you would see on, I don't know, like my husband's mom worked in a factory for a long time, and they probably still have the Greenscreens program. But so that was kind of a play, a satirical play, nodding to the industry at that time, and especially historically being very antiquated when it comes to technology, right? Like just over the last 4 or 5 years, the adoption of technology, embracing technology has grown exponentially. So it's a little of a satirical nod to that. Also green, right? Green is the color of money. We were setting out to help our customers make more money. So that was the original kind of name. And then when Dawn came over to help get the product and, the brand ready to go to market, I think she's pretty honest that she didn't love it. She didn't love it. Spent a lot of time talking through, do we keep Greenscreens? Do we not? And ultimately decided to keep it. And now, obviously, you couldn't get us to change our name if you paid us, because it's our name. We wear it proudly, and we've done a lot with it. But that's just kind of the origin story. And Celine, you can maybe talk about how we've built on that foundation over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I would say the color, I mean, besides the obvious green in there, we do a lot of black backgrounds to represent kind of that AS400. So that's kind of the coloring there, but we've definitely evolved the brand over the last few years. And this summer we kind of did a brand refresh. And I don't know if a lot of people even noticed, but that was kind of the point. We really wanted to just elevate the brand a bit. And we honestly, I think the logo idea was like, yeah.
For those listening that can't see this, Rachel's holding up the difference in the two, the slight rebranding. And I don't think I noticed, but I like it. I like the change.
Yeah. But yeah, it was like an 8-month process of us with all these crazy ideas of like, we had a mascot at one point, and then we kind of went back to square one, but just slightly elevated. And I feel like we all were like, okay, this was such an obvious thing that it took us 8 months to get to. But I don't know. I think we're really happy with where the brand is going. We've since introduced some more imagery that has some underlying meaning, which I know we don't have visuals of it, but we have an actual, it's a report that our CTO put together, and it shows the machine learning algorithms firing in real time. And so we kind of took that, and it's essentially just a bunch of different lines, but it has a meaning, which I feel like is just really fun. And I love when brands have just simple meanings in their graphics that are kind of more of a, if you know, you know. So, but yeah, I think definitely coloring wise, it's a inspiration from the AS400. And I think
do you think it's better to have something that, like green screens, or I mean, maybe Hoplite's not a good example because everyone knows, but that we even have many people that know what that actually means, rather than saying like, this is, our company is called Truck. So do you think that's kind of cooler to have something that has a small nod to it that some people might know, but most don't?
I do. Personally, I do.
Would you not work with a company called Truck?
Totally, we would.
I would probably know what they do, and if they didn't do any with the truck, I'd be very disappointed.
Yeah. Well, in our industry, it's all the acronyms, right? Yeah. It's crazy. Our development team is hilarious when they're like, "Is it SGI or TSI or TPL?" Or they kind of make a joke, but yeah, I think something creative is just that people have to ask about, right? It's like you want to make people ask the question, which I think Hoplite does as well, like versus, oh, that's probably someone's initials, or like you want to make them ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
We really, really wanted a name at some point that could just be pared down to one word.
Mm-hmm.
A great job of that. There's a lot, you have Arrive, Flock, you have like some of these big brokerages have accomplished that, and the letter companies, ABC, XYZ, maybe not as memorable. And maybe, Celine, you kind of touched on it earlier, but I'd like to hear more about that. But the different like pillars of your organization being tied into the marketing, when you have a story behind what your company name is, it's a little easier to create those pillars. We talked about that a little on episode 1, but I'm sure that's tied in somewhere to Greenscreens too. You guys, is that like a thought in the process?
Yeah, I guess like when you mean pillars, are you talking about just the different teams throughout the organization?
Teams and how you guys view the company internally, and like maybe internal mantras, whatever, like tying that into the company.
Yeah, I would definitely say, like we said, like the ideas that we've had and the things we've executed, I feel like they've continued to evolve over time. And it certainly wasn't something that we sat 2 years ago and had the strategy of like, okay, we're going to be here in 2 years. it all happened pretty much organically with the different personalities that we've had. And I think a big part of that is that we're all very collaborative. We're all open to hearing everyone's ideas, especially on the marketing team. I think a lot of times too, we like to kind of sit back and listen and be leeches in a sense, especially to the organization that, you know, the leadership team having over 100 years of industry experience, and not coming from a brokerage background. I think that has been a big piece of our marketing as we continue to evolve.
Yeah. And as far as our core values, so we didn't have, you know, official core values 2 years ago. We were, you know, as a leadership team talking through what do we want, how, you know, we were writing those for the first time last year. And I remember I was on a call with a customer, and one of our slide decks had these 4 I words at the bottom it was just created for a slide deck. It's like innovate, integrate. I don't even remember all of them. And the customer said, "Are those your core values?" And I was like, "No, but they should be." So we actually, it was like this time last year, we wrote our core values off of those 4 words. And we're redoing it again. I think it's a constant evolution. Obviously, you don't want to change, you know, your core values every year, but we're just kind of building this stronger foundation after growing, you know, doubling the size of our team in the last year and a half. So we're in the process now of revamping our core values. The leadership team read the Traction book. It's an operating system, entrepreneurial operating system. If y'all haven't read that, I highly recommend it. And I think that's going to just be like the next kind of phase in our maturation, both in the internal messaging, as well as what that then means to how we're, you know, outwardly putting ourselves out there.
I think that's, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I thought that was really interesting because I'd never thought about a company as something that could change your actual values as you change, you know, as the company changes itself or grows or whatever. Because I always thought it was embedded as part of the culture. But I guess that makes sense. It's like as you grow, or maybe you run stagnant or something changes in your company, do you feel like that's when you need to rebrand or change your marketing strategy or change what these core values are?
For us, it was more, I would say the changing the core values was just shifting it from more of a, when we first wrote them, it was more external, to be honest with you. Like we were talking about, you know, the integrated ecosystem with all of our partners. And I think we had more of like an external marketing mindset when we wrote the core values, and then realized recently, or, you know, 34 months ago, our core values really should be all driven internally. And then what, you know, if everybody is living those core values and performing in the way that those would suggest, then you are making, you know, customers happy and your external partners happy. So that was more like of an internal realization on our front. As far as Celine will have to answer like the marketing, outward marketing, and what makes you want to do that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Celine.
Yeah, I think definitely, I would say when it comes to branding, I think it certainly is. It's based on like, you know, there has to be an internal, external trigger to cause the branding. Like, I don't think I did a quick Google search. How often should you brand? It says 7 to 10 years is what is the average. And then some brands do every 3 to 4 years of a refresh. But I think when you're an early stage startup, you're in that growth mentality. I think sometimes you can divide that and then subtract it, because it really comes down to being like the reason behind it. It should be you're rebranding, you're refreshing because it's continuing to differentiate you from your competitors. It's getting you closer to your customers. And it's something, we did this refresh in the summer, and I love where our brand's going. But I think too, now we're really focusing on our messaging again. And it's like, how can we continue to evolve our messaging and have it resonate better with our customers and really simplify? And that's something Rachel and her team are working on internally right now with like, you know, what we're hearing from our customers. It's like, okay, does this resonate? and how can we change that? Because, you know, our customers are most important. And then, you know, from there too, like how can we continue to evolve our messaging? So, yeah, I think, did that answer that question?
Yeah. It's like I'm learning. It's like a live learning session right now. It's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Appreciate the openness too, because we're taking mental notes right now as we kind of develop our broader marketing strategy. But I can imagine the internal versus external, it becomes a little more important when you do double your team size in a year and a half.
Yeah. And we got people all over, right? I mean, we got folks all over the world, really, and in Europe and you know, overseas. So for us, it's a matter of making sure that it's right and it fits with our like personality and what we've built already, but that it resonates with people of different cultures as well. That's another thing that, you know, we can be challenged with in today's world where we're all over the place.
Yeah. Well, I can't just let you breeze past this offhand comment that I know someone who might be listening right now is being like, you got to go back to that. What was the mascot?
Oh.
There were a bunch of them.
Yeah, we had quite a few. There was one though. It was so I think the original product name for Greenscreens, and I think I'm allowed to say this, I don't think it's like confidential. It was like Buddy or something.
Yeah.
So we were trying to do something where the mascot would be a dog and it'd be like the broker's best friend type of thing. But a lot of people liked it, but I mean, it is kind of cutesy, so it's okay. Maybe one day we'll have a green dog, but it didn't happen this time around.
Was there a runner-up?
I got to see, so one of our designers, I actually got to go to Vilnius, Lithuania a couple months ago to meet our whole development team. And one of the designers was showing me at dinner all the different ideas that he came up with. I mean, some of them are pretty awesome, like badass trucks that look like they could be transformers. He threw every idea out there. But yeah, I don't know what else. It was mainly trucks that he showed me.
Yeah, and I'm assuming there was some type of like robot type thing in there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's why our process is the most fun to me. And that's honestly been one of the funnest things about this journey is not the growth in the team. And that's all huge and awesome. But we finally get to flex a little creative muscle. And when you're working for a large company, you don't really get to scratch that itch. And
right.
Those processes are really cool to hear about behind the scenes.
Yeah, we say, so at Greenscreens, we've said, you know, we're all in sales, and it's the same. We're all in marketing. And I agree. Like when you're at a small company, yes, you have a job description, but you get to cross the aisle and try to, you know, flex different muscles mentally and creatively. And that's how the best ideas are formed, when you put a bunch of different minds together and come out with something that is ultimately more, what's the word, diverse than one or two people sitting in a room would have come up with.
I agree.
No.
Well, my last question is just something a lot there, not to put you on the spot, but we gave a couple of companies that weren't us that we thought were doing awesome with the logos and marketing. Obviously, Greenscreens was one of them. Is there anyone out there, logo and brand wise, you think is just killing it in the logistics world right now?
What do you think, Celine?
Yeah. Shout out to Highway. Shout out to Jesse. I love their branding. I think it's very simple, but like the Highway logo I love, and I just love their sub brands and things that they include in their graphics. I'm a big fan of everything that they're doing. So
yeah. And I think I would say Tide does a good job, excuse me, being, you know, again, they take what they do seriously, but they don't necessarily take themselves too seriously. There's really creative marketing that I've seen from them. One of our customers actually that does a lot in the way of like highlighting their people and supporting organizations that I think others find very, you know, important as well is Direct Traffic Solutions. They do a lot that it's resonated with me, and I think probably does with others as well. Those are just the two that come to the top of my head.
No, I love it. That's funny.
Hoplite, obviously, Hoplite's amazing.
Oh, I wasn't catering. I wasn't.
I was waiting for it.
But we appreciate it. But that's funny. Highway was my top two were Greenscreens and Highway.
Yep.
You have done some cool things together. Obviously, we did the when we were in Atlanta for the Freight Waves. So future supply chain. You guys did the Highway and Greenscreens joint happy hour. We were there, and some similarities there. But Jessie's super nice, and she's doing a great job. Brian, do you have any other last questions for him?
I don't. What are we going to see next? Manifest?
Well, what are y'all going to next? Because Greenscreens is at a lot of stuff.
But... I know you guys are everywhere, and that's one of your. That's obviously a great quality for marketing too. Is you're at like every single event.
We're flying into Manifest on Super Bowl Sunday because the conference is the day after.
That's right.
Just throwing that out there. Hopefully we're celebrating on the Vegas Strip a Lions Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean Lions Chiefs is what I'm saying. I'm a Chiefs fan. My boys are all Lions fans. I obviously cheer for them too, but that would be badass. Lions Chiefs Super Bowl.
Our senior sales executive, our guy Rob Connard. Shout out to the largest Chiefs fan I know. You'll love him when you meet Rob. But
awesome.
Yeah. But shout out to the Lions too. We'll just throw that at the end of the pod. But thank you guys for coming on. Love talking to you always. And if you really appreciate it, and hopefully we can have you on again sometime.